for example, that one of the most important beliefs for the ancient Egyptians is to be buried, mummified, and with their jewelry, with their furniture, with their statue, with their tools. They believed in they are going to use that in the afterlife. So they will live for eternity in the afterlife, and they are going to use actually these tools in the afterlife. And these beliefs make them making a very fine art pieces, which is used for eternity, made from material which is extremely solid and durable, and covered with gold for those who can afford it, so they can keep it and have it for eternity in the afterlife. This concept made the ancient Egyptians save or put most of their savings in an art pieces in form of tools, in form of statues, in form of clothes, jewelry, to be buried with them in the afterlife. So their beliefs helped greatly in shaping the culture, and the culture definitely contributed to the art pieces. Not only the topics, which has been, you talk about innovation and topics, most of the topics of the art pieces of the ancient Egyptians, it was mainly about religious topics and how to help them accessing the afterlife. And there was another topic as well, which has something to do with daily life, and that is normally used for political reasons or for delivering specific messages or for giving themselves a protection from evil eye or from evil spell during their life.
So, sir, what is the influence of Orientalists and their documentations of these arts through the book Description of Egypt of the French campaign?
So, definitely, so the French campaign and the documentation, it not only documented the ancient Egyptian art, but documented the modern art as well. And the influence of the ancient Egyptian art and the classical art, that even started before the description of Egypt, or the famous book of Description of Egypt. The ancient Egyptians, they had a trade ties with the Mediterranean back in that time, with the Middle East back in that time, and it's very often to find an example of an ancient Egyptian art traded with ancient civilization in Greece and Mediterranean, and in the Middle East, in Syria, in Lebanon, as a form of influence, proving that there was an influence in that. Not only looking at some specific art and some specific art topics in the Middle East. I'm talking about the ancient civilization, like ancient Iraq, Phoenicians, the ancient Greek. You can see clearly the influence. One of the biggest examples of this influence, which is started when Alexander and the Ptolemies took over Egypt and built the city of Alexandria, building a temple and mixing the cult, the ancient cult, with the Greek cult together, forming a new beliefs or a mixed beliefs of Serapis and Isis or Isis. So Isis has been, the ancient Egyptian god has been dressed in a Greek cloth and traveled all over the world as a cult, I mean that. And there is more than 45 temples built for the ancient Egyptian goddess all over Europe. Now when you go to Europe, even Spain, even as far as Spain, that you will find shrines for Isis and Osiris, the ancient Egyptian god, and that definitely that introduce or influence the art there as well. So the message here is not only the French campaign in Egypt, which happens almost 200 years ago, but it was even the influence of the Egyptian art that was started a long time before in classical art.
So, sir, to what extent the contemporary craftsmen continue to preserve heritage and introduce new touches in line with the times?
You are talking about today?
Yes.
Or?
To what extent, yes, today's craftsmen are trying to preserve this heritage and introduce new touches in line with these times?
So, I'm afraid to say that we, in current time, we are not as advanced, and we are not focused on art and unique art to represent the Egyptian culture and heritage as as what was happening in ancient time. And there is an outside influence in our art now, and there is one of the things which is really annoying me, and is the craftsman which is making this unique crafts art, which is unique for Egypt and the Egyptians and the Egyptian culture. Their numbers, they are decreasing, and there is no new like technicians, or there is new artists actually joining the field. I know that there is initiatives. One of the very good initiatives is this art school sponsored by the Ministry of Culture, that is in Coptic Cairo, and there is also the pottery workshops, which has been sponsored and has been supported by the government around Coptic Cairo. But I think that's still not enough. There should be encouragement for the new generation to adapt and to practice and to learn this art so we can preserve, and to innovate in this art so we can preserve. I think that we should follow the ancient Egyptian example of that, and both the kings and noblemen, they put a huge investment in this field, a huge investment which is making villages and entire villages and communities only for the artists and crafts. The best example of that is, or one of the survived examples, is Deir el-Medina, a very unique ancient Egyptian site, again in the west bank of Luxor. Deir el-Medina, that was a big compound back in that time, from the New Kingdom, nearly 3,500 years ago. These compounds, everybody living there that was specialized in art, and they were specialized in making art pieces. They had been paid well, they were fed well. There was a very good system to manage these compounds and the workers and the artists in these compounds, and some of them became rich enough to build their own tombs, which is still there on the site, which I invite everybody there to go and see, to build their own tombs, which is decorated with a very unique art, reflects how complex the art and how innovative they were back in that time.
Yes, I'd like to thank you, Mr. Samir Abbas, Egyptologist and tourism expert. Thank you, sir, for being with us. And by that, dear viewers, we come to the end of today's edition of The Breakfast Show. Thank you for watching.